So I've recently gotten actual time to play Sonic Frontiers. I'm late, I know, and I gotta say, it's really fun to play. I won't even lie, the controls are messing me up so hard, but the one thing that stood out to me while playing this was how much Sonic was in this. I can change the background music to literally any Sonic track. Like, why am I able to have Sonic Heroes playing in the background? It's awesome, but makes me go, huh, neat. It's such a bizarre feeling having so much of Sonic's past be present either within the music or the dialogue itself. I remember people making fun of the constant references Sonic would make, and I admit a couple of them did make me laugh because of how out of place it felt, but there's something charming about it. Referencing Sonic's history in a way more direct way than showcasing it via stage or visual makes it stand out more, and we've seen it done in previous games such as Forces, but those were more classic themed. Like, yes, here's Chemical Plant. But nah, here, it's like, let's reference the adventure games, Heroes, even Sonic Boom, which raises some continuity questions, but I'm gonna let them slide with it because I like sticks. With more and more Sonic media coming out, they seem to be embracing more and more of its history in a way that celebrates it rather than feels embarrassed, I wanna say. Sonic has had his troubles along the way, no one can deny that, and one of the most hardest parts about dealing with our past is how to deal with it. Some of us choose to hide it, to act like it never existed. Clean record, clean slate, as I say, but I think the best way to handle your past is embrace it. Use it as a way to push yourself forward rather than letting it hold you back. I remember being like 10 or 11 scrolling down Sonic forums seeing what Sonic fans were talking, and let me say, people were assholes back then. Not to say they aren't now, oh god no, don't go on Twitter, I swear to god, but people were really insistent on their opinions on certain games. Regardless of what you think about certain games, some of them did do poorly financially or critically, and it did affect the future of the series. I figured this one out thanks to some call me Johnny, but Sega in the mid-2000s actually did some black ink on the Sonic series, delisting certain Sonic games that didn't do well critically, and this includes Sonic Unleashed since at the time, it wasn't received the best by critics. I'm gonna be talking about things in the eyes of critics and finance because there are certain people that love games that didn't do well, and that's perfectly fine. But to paint the story, I'm gonna need to show you what Sega and a bunch of other Sonic fans thought of the series past for a while. What made Sonic Frontiers different though is how it embraced the lore aspect of the series rather than the games itself. The most Sonic Generations did was give us visual beauties of past stages but nothing else in terms of lore. We received like one cutscene of them talking about Chemical Plant, but that's it. In Sonic Frontiers, they make it a point to connect the series story-wise, which is something Sonic hasn't really done before at this level. Showing flashbacks of the classic games and specifying Sonic Adventure events are just some examples that come to mind. And ooh, here's my favorite one. Remember when I talked about embracing the past and such? Well, Sonic Frontiers does it in such an amazing way that recontextualizes the scene that pissed me off in Sonic Forces. Any Tails fan knows what I'm talking about. Tails laying his ass out in the open for Chaos to rip out is one of the worst scenes for Tails, and Sonic Frontiers could just ignore the scene, act like it never existed. But instead, we get scenes elaborating on it and how inconsistent it was for him. It's not perfect at all, but it's an attempt, and honestly I can respect them for not trying to sweep it under the rug. Plus, we all have our off days, come on, the fact they're addressing it shows that they care. I can think of other series that when it fucked up, it pressed the reboot card, and while I can understand it to an extent, I think salvaging something is a lot more commendable. It may take more work, but it'll ultimately create a result that pays respects both to the past and present. Case in point, Shadow Generations. Who the hell thought Black Doom was gonna come back? This is something that has been shoved into the ground for over a decade besides comics and the like. The comics aren't entirely the thing and shit goes crazy in there. I do actually remember consistently catching up to the comic. Rest in peace. It's not just re-adding Black Doom and implementing the Black Arms back to the series and holy fuck, Sonic 06 and Mephiles? As someone who's not really harsh on Sonic 06, in fact I made a review on it when I was super young in 2016, I was like, guys, this game isn't that bad. I generally meant that, by the way. I think it's okay all things considered. It's just relieving seeing it be given a second chance. And that's the thing, a second chance. You're not always gonna stick the landing on the first try. You're not always gonna get an S rank in a Sonic stage on your first try, especially in Eggman land. And Sonic's been admittedly guilty of this for a long while now. You may be thinking I'm talking about certain story elements or characters, and while that's true, no, I'm talking about spin-offs. Think of how many times a Sonic game has experimented with a genre and then immediately quit. Sonic Shuffle, Sonic Battle, Sonic Chronicles. These games experimented with testing the waters of different genres, but because of poor or mediocre reception, they weren't given a second chance. Dude, a Sonic Battle game would be awesome. A Sonic RPG would be even cooler. Just because your first attempt was Sonic Chronicles doesn't mean you should give up. There's so much potential in the different areas Sonic has gone into, but you see what I mean though, right? Characters and genres that Sonic has touched into, but for one reason or another it didn't stick the landing and Sega never gave it another chance. Until now. You could easily reboot elements of Sonic, reboot Black Doom, reboot 06, reboot that stupid Tails moment, or just erase it all completely. But the best thing you can do is give something another chance. Black Doom as a concept has always been a bit weird in the Sonic space, from what I remember people saying. Aliens, bro. Aliens. Combined with the whole hero or villain paths, it made for a clusterfuck in my opinion with Black Doom. Here though, he gets another chance to be in the spotlight, and I really like him in this game. This game is pretty linear, so there's no multi-story path shit, and unfortunately doesn't have much of a presence, but I love him in what he does. I love how much he fucks with Shadow. This guy is essentially the father of Shadow, and they're biologically linked, letting him do some crazy shit to him to essentially torture him. It's on a level much bigger than what he did in Shadow the Hedgehog, where he mostly stalks Shadow and controls him at the end. If I'm missing anything, let me know, I forgot most of Shadow the Hedgehog. But you can see where I'm going with this. Black Doom is given a second chance to do his thing, to be reintroduced to a much wider audience, and they did an amazing job with it. It's embracing the past in a way that doesn't make fun of itself for being like, remember that, but more so, remember that? It's relevant now. I'd be doing a disservice though if I don't talk about Mephiles and the Sonic 06 references in this game. All the things I've been saying about Black Doom should really be going towards Sonic 06 because god damn, Mephiles activated something in my brain, and not the weird kind. The kind that made me think for a second. Dude, they should bring Mephiles back. What? If you can place that thought in my head, you have done an amazing job. People meme on Mephiles, and for good reason. He is the stupidest villain. I could spend a whole video on it, but thousands of others already have. The point is though, he's given a second chance here, and the way it's done is in such a unique way that shows a new side of Mephiles, but also fits in the real world view of Sonic 06. Mephiles' whole thing in this boss battle is that he knows he was erased from the world due to the events in Sonic 06, and that the void is his only chance of escape. He wants to be free, he wants to be alive, and he's desperate. It's just eerie as well, being erased in the timeline knowing that you are, like being lost in space. It's also a meta commentary on Sonic 06 in real life, because after Sonic 06, Sega did not want to reference that shit unless they needed to. For almost 2 decades, the most we got was a stage and Elise being drawn for some illustrations along with Silver. Plot-wise though, it was never followed up on, and it was completely understandable since it literally rebooted itself. This new take though, this second chance from Mephiles, or non-existent chance now because his ass got whooped, is so fucking cool. Also, it fits with the character of Mephiles, surprisingly. I saw some people talking about it, but in Sonic 06, his goal was pure destruction. He wanted Iblis, he wanted Solaris to destroy the world and everything, boom! But after being erased and left in the void, he's like, wait, shit, I kinda wanna live. A being who wants to erase all life suddenly wants to live, and that's ironic in the funniest way possible. It's also really funny seeing the contrast between how he reacts in this game and Sonic 06. In Sonic 06, he was this mustache trolling villain that seemed to have everything under control and all the plans were in place. Here though, please let me out, please, 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 don't forget me. It's something so out of place, but feels perfectly in character for him, and that's one of the best things you can do when giving something a second chance. It's not just about putting them back in, it's adding more layers to them, or twisting it in a way that makes their implementation better than what it was originally. Going to the other Sonic 06 reference, Kingdom Valley. Oh my god. How about we take one of Shadow's most infamous stages and turn it into one of the best stages ever? This is the best example of a second chance that I've been talking about in this video. It's the perfect example because it's something visual, not character-related, because I can't articulate my thoughts on characters pretty well. I'm telling you man, we better get a Silver game. Sega has done so much to redeem all these aspects, so redeem Silver. This is not even part of the video anymore, this is a request. Solaris, I've seen what you do for others. Please let Silver have this moment. All of Sonic's history is being given a second chance, so I pray, I'm on my knees, telling you that Silver needs redemption. People need to know he's cool. We can't keep relying on 1K like tweets where Silver does something cool. I need him to do something cool in the game, what I'm gonna see on TikTok, Instagram, everywhere. Anyway, I'd be stupid not to mention one of the biggest reasons we have all this new lore implementation and embracement of the past. He's not the sole reason of course, but I have to mention Ian Flynn for this video. Since Sonic Frontiers I think, he's been in charge of the lore for Sonic in a sense. I'm not sure of the exact job description, but he handles most of the Sonic lore and how it's implemented and listen. He's been with Sega since the Archie comic days, and coming from someone who has read a bunch of the comics he's written, I love his work. He's responsible for somehow making sense of the post-Super Genesis wave when the whole Ken Pender shit happened, and using the Mega Man crossover as a way to transition to the new world. What I'm saying is that he has history of Sonic, and he's always shown that. So seeing him have this much influence on the games is something I have the utmost respect for. Now he's not perfect, let's be clear, but I feel like his accomplishments outweigh the decisions here and there. I'd rather have his input with a few bad moves here and there rather than nothing at all, and I hope that makes sense. Ian Flynn has always been good with using the game's continuity to heighten his work. It was apparent in the comics he wrote, but now that it's in the games, I feel it has a lot more presence. In the comics, it's more of a ooh, that's a nice reference, while in the games, they can actually use that reference as a story moment to flesh a character or add more to a character like I've been talking about in this video. I don't know if it's been confirmed, but I wouldn't be surprised if the only reason Mephiles got back in was because Ian Flynn suggested the idea of it. It's such a far-fetched idea that I think only he could do, and pulled off incredibly well. I think my love for Ian Flynn's work mostly comes to the fact that I distinctly remember how much I wanted Sonic's world to be connected in a sense. Everyone talks about it, but let me talk about it from the perspective of a child. I grew up playing Sonic games, either legally or illegally, and I was aware of the Sonic lore. I would watch lore videos constantly and read fanfiction and fan comics that would make me aware of everything Sonic related. And it showed me that Sonic has such a bright and vast history that made me question, why the hell aren't they showing more of it? It just seems like with every new modern game, they do something new and forget about the next time after, along with the gameplay. It was little bits here and there, but not to the extent I thought it would go. It's why I enjoyed reading the comics so much back then. They were good stories in their own right, but used the elements of Sonic's history to connect the world more. landmarks and characters that appear not as an Avengers cameo moment, but just there to chill and be part of the story. It's why I'm okay with the sometimes in-your-face references that Flynn has done, because the fact it's being done at all shows me that he cares for the world of Sonic. I should talk about the Sonic Generations rewrite though, because it's definitely a mixed bag. It's in one part flawed because they were forced to use the existing animations, so the new lines aren't going to be perfect, and also, some of these lines, man. Without the time stones, I support Ian Flynn's rights and wrongs. It's nice to live in a time where Sonic's celebrated all around. The games, the movie, and especially its history. I've seen people talking about 06 since Shadow Generations release, and it's really nice looking at it now. The fact we can look at 06 and other Sonic games with a more open eye now, knowing that the impacts of it are over, is relaxing. We're in a time now where we can celebrate and give the past a second chance, and that's honestly the best thing I can say now. I want Silver. Fuck, I want Elise back. If we're gonna be implementing more humans into the series, why not re-implement existing human characters? Fuck it, I'm gonna keep going. Mephiles Sonic. Let's have a game where story focus more on him and his identity crisis regarding him being the anti/fake Sonic. People tend to confuse Shadow and Mephiles Sonic when it comes to the opposite version of Sonic, but I think Mephiles has a lot more nuance when it comes to his existence. His pride, his ego, his desire that he is Sonic can be explored so well. There's traces of it in Sonic Heroes, traces of it in Shadow Generations actually, I forgot to talk about it, and the OVA especially. It's what I love about reintroductions of characters. In a more modern setting, you can explore and get deeper into these already established characters, and isn't that awesome? Learning more about a character that existed before but didn't get the spotlight they really deserved? I'm talking about Silver, by the way. He has so much to him, but I know that unless you get the game where he is fully redeemed and explored, he is not going to get the attention that he deserves. God, I love Silver! If Silver gets a new game, I will make a video titled Why Silver is the GOAT. I'll get a white wig or dye my hair and I'll wear his fucking cool ass gloves and I'll be like, it's no use! Take this! The Iblis trigger! No way! It's no use! What else Silver quotes can I say? I kind of forgot. I know, I love the one. No way! Sonic, what did he say? Okay, these are actual unironic ones. Testicular corrosion?